You literally soar through the sky on the back of feathers, which is brilliant design. You have used this object to master your anxiety, and now it represents you overcoming those self-doubts and fears. The synth line here seems more hopeful than the usual battle and fair, almost as if this could actually go well.
It will not.
Hershey bar, marshmallows, graham crackers. These three foods are pretty delicious separately, but if you've ever had a s'more, you know that these trio of tasty treats is elevated with that perfect combination of fire, rich gooiness, and crisp crunch. Now I know that Celeste already has a dessert baked good that it is well acquainted with, but we're gonna set aside the strawberry pie and talk about something that I feel like is even more indicative of just how good and tasty this game is. And in revisiting Extremely OK Games 2018 seminal classic Celeste, I was struck by just how much it reminded me of this campfire classic. Celeste's graham crackers are its story. They provide the foundation for whatever flavors interlope amongst these crunchy, porous wafers. The trials of Madeline and crew keep you focused and moving forward while giving you something to bite into while enjoying what's inside. Now the gameplay is definitely the Marshmallow. It keeps everything glued together without the precise platforming, the pitch perfect controls, and the simple yet complex nature of its methods. The entire thing would fall apart. And while the stickiness it provides can be frustrating, by the end you'd rather have to gnaw the goo off of your fingers than to let even a single morsel go.
I'm looking at you, BNC sides.
And the music, oh, the sweet, sweet music. Now that is the Hershey bar, for sure. It may seem to be the least important part of the trifecta on paper, still, as it continues to melt beyond the final blaze of the flame, oozing and pouring over every aspect of Celeste's internals, you realize that it's just as vital to the synergy as any other. It really adds the flavor and sugar rush to an already remarkable 1-2 punch. Oh, and when you take that first bite, heavenly. And the one thing that Celeste does better than any other game that I've ever played is create a synergy of its story, gameplay, and music that takes each disparate piece to higher peaks than any single part could alone. So sit down campfire side as I take you on a climb, breaking down 4 moments when Celeste creates an unforgettable chemistry between those 3 core design pillars, and why I believe these moments represent the very best of Celeste and the very best in gaming, period.
Alright, so first, let's define each ingredient and why these main cornerstones of Celeste's experience absolutely soar above the rest. Story, the graham crackers. Now, the story of Celeste is simple, yet incredibly powerful. I've had a pretty consistent mental health journey in my life, but it wasn't always easy for me. Despite how well-spoken and verbose I may appear now, a 6-week early birthing that found me with the umbilical cord wrapped around my throat left me barely alive, with a significant impact on my developmental speech. I had a pretty considerable stutter by the time I hit first grade, and as one of only a couple black students in my class at the Catholic school that I attended, things weren't very sunshine and rainbows for your boy. This definitely took me to some dark places, as I would often question my value in this world, my value to others, and left me trying to figure out how to fit in, but, also to stand out. Who am I and what's next for me? Now, Celeste is ostensibly about climbing life's mountain, a straight vertical cliff of self-doubt, trauma, uncertainty, depression, anxiety, and, maybe therapy. According to the game's developer, Maddie Thorson, via the Nintendo Power Podcast, episode number 3. Now you play as Madeline, a Canadian who finds herself climbing Celeste Mountain. Yes, the game is named after the mountain, not the protagonist. I'm sure Link feels old Maddie's pain. Oh, and real quick, this isn't a story summary, by the way. Just play the damn game. Anyway, as you climb this mountain, you meet characters like Theo, a friendly and outgoing photographer, Granny, a mysterious old woman, Mr. Oshiro, a ghostly hotel owner, and your best chum, Battling. We'll call her Batty for short. While Maddie and Batty live in the same head, they often disagree on what's best for them. This dynamic, combined with the interactions with the aforementioned secondary characters, leads to one of the most thoughtful and courageous portrayals of mental health in a video game ever. It takes you through incredible highs, heartbreaking lows, and ultimately explores what it means to be a human being that is grappling with fears, uncertainties, and these fucked up thoughts and destructive tendencies that so many of us have. The story is sublime, and even with this being my 5th or 6th time through the game on 3 different systems now, all of those outstanding story elements still hit me deep in my soul. Gameplay, the Marshmallow.
Yes, the Marshmallow.
What you probably signed up for if you're trying to get into Celeste is the gameplay. Now, at its core, Celeste gameplay is elegantly simple. You control Madeline with just a D-pad or a joystick, a jump, a dash, and a grab. It's a setup that could fit on a Sega Genesis controller, yet it offers hours of thrills, defeats, frustrations, and moments of triumph. Each screen presents a puzzle, or in mountain climbing parlance, a problem to solve. It's a gameplay experience that's both accessible and deep, offering a unique blend of challenge and satisfaction. Okay, yeah, I sort of went through a weird YouTube phase where I watched competitive rock climbing for a bit. Anywho, don't take my word for it. Listen to the dev with another quote from the Nintendo Power podcast. You look around, figure out what to do next, and execute, or at least you try to, and then you fail, and then fail, and then fail, and then get a little further, and
Fail.
But the game is super gentle with death as you simply explode into a bunch of little balls. There's a nice little transition wipe, and you're back at the start of the screen. Most screens are just a matter of jumps, dashes, and climbs that usually take just seconds to complete, but it's the work and practice that takes time. Each stage has a gimmick or two which keeps the pacing on pace, and the uniqueness of each area stands out. Sometimes you'll be launching yourself through stardust jelly, other times you'll be using blobs to shoot yourself down corridors, and other times you'll be as light as a feather, floating between touch points. Almost all of these feel amazing to interface with, and the pitch perfect controls keep you in, well, control. You rarely, if ever, feel like death was unfair, and this game ultimately carries the mantle of, get knocked down 9 times, get up 10. Or I guess in my case, get knocked down 742, get up 743. There aren't many bosses to speak of, but the moments that I consider to be boss-like are so very memorable, and they really ratchet up the speed of everything, forcing you to perform on a dime. It's easily one of the best made and most fun, despite frustrating platformers that I've ever had the pleasure of handling. The chocolate. And finally, the music. Let's just say what it is. Lena Raine is a goddamned genius, and these beats are just Now, I've made s'mores with various types of chocolate. We got, the regular classic, dark, even white. But while they may all provide different flavors, every single one of them enhances the other ingredients, and that is each and every song in this game. There's a lot of places in the game where I would have levels designed with just white boxes, no real graphics. She would come in with the music. That would really inform the direction I went with the level design. And you can tell just how lockstep the tracks and the story's vision are, because you can't take one without the other. The way the instrumentation builds based on the on-screen action is seriously some of my favorite in any game. Lena definitely uses few instruments to create such a brilliant and unique soundscape for your entire climb. Each character is represented by an instrument. Maddie's the piano, Madeline is that sharp synth, Theo is represented by the guitar, and Oshiro is the theremin. Spooky. Now, when a chase starts, you know it. When a significant encounter occurs, you know it. When a goddamn panic attack begins, you know. Okay, let me not get ahead of myself. And that is a perfect transition to begin breaking down a handful of my favorite moments in Celeste and how those encapsulate its ability to combine these three elements into something so special and so tasty. Moment 1, the winds of change. After leaving Mr. Oshiro behind and continuing on her journey, Madeline finds herself amongst the ridges of Mount Celeste as day breaks. As she comes to terms with the conflict that just ended with him, the music is a simple piano melody that is very reflective, with a hint of droning bass. As you continue to climb, the wind picks up here and there, adding layers of synthesizer to punctuate these moments that take your calm away. As the arpeggio creeps back in, the serene climb immediately becomes more anxiety-inducing the higher and higher you get. And as you near the top, the percussion kicks in, the wind becomes more and more combative, and as an additional piano arpeggiated line intertwines, almost as Madeline finds herself at odds with herself. Is this worth it? I couldn't help but feel like the wind represents the push and pull of life's travails. It blows with the character at points, moving you along faster than you might even like. At others, it blows against Madeline, causing you to work twice as hard to make the same distance, and sometimes it throws you around forward and back. The winds of change manifested as a literal gameplay mechanic. Super dope tie-in. Moment 2, Mountainside Panic. With Theo by your side, you end up taking a rickety-ass gondola to reach a higher point on the mountain. Seems like a dumb choice in hindsight, but Theo is a man who exudes confidence and assures Maddie that nothing is wrong. The initial music has a soft guitar that points to Theo's assurances as he lets you know everything is, quote,
certainly fine.
It fades away until all you hear is the wind wisping by. As the pair continues upwards, it's clear that Madeline is having some serious issues with the ride. Questions about how high they are and comments about her inability to see the ground give her serious pause. Slow piano notes begin to trickle in as Madeline sits atop the gondola, causing it to sway in the breeze, representative of Madeline's unease. After Theo accidentally breaks the lever, shit really hits the fan. These tendrils fill the screen, and as the synths return, they are eventually washed out by a low-pass filter. The voices continue to get further and further away, also a wash and a low pass. With each passing moment, the tentacles engulf more of the screen's real estate. As Madeline struggles to catch her breath, Theo teaches her a breathing technique, which is actually a real tactic used to overcome such anxiety and panic.
All you have to do to make this work is put your hand out in front of you, and you're going to imagine that there's a feather on it, and then we're going to blow and imagine we're trying to make that feather float in the air for as long as we can. So we take a nice deep breath in, and then we're just going to blow for as long as we can.
As the synths finally fade to the back, the piano returns, stays peaceful, and plays much softer. This is Madeline taking control of her anxiety through the technique. Now, I've never experienced a panic attack, but when I described this scene to my partner in detail, she said, yep, that's a panic attack. It helped me understand an affliction that I do not have any personal experience with. Moment 3, a bit of a misunderstanding. Now, after one of the most beautiful conversations I've ever been a part of in a video game, Madeline and Theo find themselves staring up at the northern lights. It's a really touching moment, some of the best dialogue I think I've ever had the joy of reading. You can tell that Madeline feels very confident and upbeat and is ready to confront Madeline about their, quote, spats. You literally soar through the sky on the back of feathers, which is brilliant design. You have used this object to master your anxiety, and now it represents you overcoming those self-doubts and fears. The synth line here seems more hopeful than the usual battling fare, almost as if this could actually go well.
It will not.
As you continue to soar upwards unobstructed, a more sinister synth begins to creep in. Sitting amongst the stars, you call battling out, and ooh man, I just got chills. This is the moment of Celeste for me. Positive Madeline tries to explain to Batty that she no longer needs her, that she's the worst parts of her, but it's okay. She had served her purpose. Showing a distinct lack of understanding as to what the other part of her truly is, Madeline becomes enraged. The self-sabotage, the doubts, the pain, the heaviest rock, hip-hop infused drums drop in as Madeline begins to literally climb out of the screen, chastising and berating, damn near taunting Madeline. The tendrils start to close in the screen again, growing larger and larger as one literally grabs you, and you begin to try the feather breathing technique as the music starts to calm down just a bit, with the heavy synths giving way to a much pluckier one, drums disappearing, and she cuts the feather in half. As the synth and Madeline begin to circle you, the end is nigh. Literally dragging you back down to earth below the surface where you even started climbing. This shit gets me every single time. The perfect manifestation of depression, self-loathing, self-sabotage, maybe even self-harm. Till Madeline learns to work with this side of herself, she'll never be free. Moment 4. Teamwork makes the scheme work. After one hell of a night, Madeline finds herself well below Celeste's peak. Sometimes you gotta hit rock bottom, yeah? As you come to in the bottom of the pit, Madeline's recurring leitmotif shows back up, somber as ever, with an uneasy push and pull to it. You still utilize the feathers to get around the screen in this level. However, there is spiky floor littered around the walls, removing the free-flowing, carefree movement that the previous feathers had just provided. But she's still learning how to cope. And as you move further upward from this terrible place, there are these blocks that can move in any one direction. They all have these angry faces, and when you hit them, they move only one way, lashing out, slamming into anything and anyone that gets in their path. Representative of the rage and self-destruction that leads us all to the very bottom. The closer you get to pulling yourself out, the more that darn baddie synth continues to creep in with a pulsing rhythm. When you come across her, you begin to reason with her. She threatens to pull you down to the center of the earth, and you decide it might be a good idea to climb out together. She begins to run, which begins one of the most exhilarating moments in the game, the boss fight. An interesting aspect about this fight is that the difficulty almost scales in reverse, which fits perfectly within the narrative. As you begin to talk reasonably and make amends with this part of Madeline, catching her seems to be easier and easier as eventually the feathers begin to pop up, as well as some old gameplay mechanics popping back up. Eventually, the ceiling tiles that were trying to kill you are now lifting you. As Madeline puts together all of her skills to reach the end of this passage, she finally realizes that there aren't two hers. There's not Madeline and Madeline. They are part of the same person. Just as we are all complex and unique creatures, and after only having a single dash for all the game up to this point, you guys finally combine powers and boom, a level up. Double jump. As you stop getting in your own way, you realize you can help instead of hinder each other. Batty can even toss you up further, almost like she's not a negative part of you, but the more grounded, thoughtful, and driven one. As you climb together, both of their musical themes begin to play together at once on the piano. They are finally indeed in harmony. Getting the double jump after squaring off with her might be one of my favorite aspects of the entire game, and a perfect encapsulation. How the story ties directly into the gameplay, and the music only sweetens this pot. And can we not agree that Confronting Myself might be the dopest song in this game? Just fits so perfectly with everything happening in this moment.
Now, Celeste is made up of so many great moments like this that I swear I could fill like an hour-long video about this topic. And that's why this game is one of the greatest ever made, and I will
stand on that business.
It's rare that a game takes the three most important cornerstones of its design, story, gameplay, and music, and combines them into something so sweet. This symphony that is so good to the very last morsel. The combo of Maddie Thorson, Noel Berry, Lena Raine, and the rest of the crew felt like a dream team cranking on all cylinders. And even when things in life can get sticky, tough, and a little out of hand, we all gotta concentrate on the deliciousness of life and getting another day and another chance to finally get it right. Celeste is a game that reminds me to accept all parts of myself, to continue to press on, to continue to strive to do better, and to continue to take chances as we climb that proverbial life mountain. Oh, and it definitely reminds me to keep working on my music because, oh man, Lena Raine, you are an inspiration and a complete monster. And before the summer is fully over, maybe go outside and make yourself a s'more. So damn good. Now, if you enjoyed this video, maybe click here and enjoy some other extremely okay takes on indie games that I have. And as always, like, share, subscribe, all the usual YouTube mumbo jumbo, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video. As always, peace.